This will be so all over the place. I don't know, this is so difficult. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be doing a single book review. I have never really made like a video dedicated to a single book in this review sort of format before, so please bear with me. The book I'll be talking about today is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan. This was released, I believe, sometime in July, the end of July. It's a historical fantasy targeted towards adults. It has been a very hyped and anticipated book for many. First of all, let's look at it. It is stunning. I think this is the UK edition of the cover, not sure, but this is what it looks like. I got the hardback. Basically, this book is marketed as a Mulan meets the Song of Achilles, and I'll talk about why I think part of this statement is correct and why half of it is perhaps not. Why this is a historical fiction is because it's greatly inspired by China and when the Mongols ruled over China. There's even a historical note in the beginning of this that I will just read from so I get all the historical things correctly. The Huan dynasty in China stood out because it was a period when China was ruled by Mongol conquerors, and the events of this book takes place near the end of this very turbulent time in their history. In this story we are following a girl who is actually not named in the beginning. She is a peasant, she lives together with her father and her brother, and they live a very poor life. In her society, women and girls are basically considered to be worthless, they don't really mean anything. A fortune teller, something similar like that, tells the fate of the girl and her brother. It is revealed that her brother is destined for greatness and the girl is destined for nothing. Quite early in the book, in the first few chapters, something turns around. The events of that makes it so the girl actually takes on the identity of her brother and starts going by the name Chu Chongba. Throughout the rest of the book, this girl will be referred to as Chu Chongba, and she decides to take on the faith of her brother. So basically we're following this girl, a very young girl, I think she's around 11 when the book starts out, who takes on the faith of her brother and does everything in her power to basically survive, live her life, avoid her faith that she was told that she would become nothing. This book is marketed as a Mulan meets the Song of Achilles. Obviously, as you might guess now, the Mulan part is quite prominent because we have a girl pretending to be a guy. That's definitely the entire point of this book in some ways. Song of Achilles, I think, has more to do with the fact that this book is also based a lot on mythology, not Greek mythology of course, but more Asian and Chinese. So I think that might be the main comparison there, and also that it's queer. That's also one of the reasons. Let's continue talking about the plot of the book actually. This book is divided in 3 different parts. The first part is when the girl takes on her brother's identity, Chu Chongba, and she actually joins a monastery to become a monk. Because of that, she has to hide her true identity. So she disguises herself as this boy throughout the entire first part of the book, and she learns a lot. There's a lot of like training, learning to write, talk, speak, pray. Meanwhile, in the story, like if you look at the wider part of the story, not only Chu Chongba's storyline, there is a resistance, a rebellion building up against the Mongolian ruler and the Mongolian conquerors. That is sort of the setting of the book, I would say. As I mentioned, she has a great will to survive, a great desire, I should say. That sort of brings her to become a part of this rebellion as well, and to become quite a central part in it. At the moment, this is just a standalone. I honestly don't know if this is a standalone or if it's meant to be a series. I think they have set it up to become a series. The series would be called The Radiant Emperor, and this is the first book in it. Hopefully, we will get a sequel to this one very soon. I think it's just better that I talk about my general thoughts about this one, and hopefully you will get some more ideas about the plot and how it and the writing and the history and all of that. The first part was amazing. It was great. I really enjoyed the girl in the skies, how Chu Chongba tried to constantly avoid her own faith. The second part for me, I didn't really enjoy honestly, or I did enjoy it, but it was quite slow and it felt quite uneventful, which is weird because there's a lot of action scenes in that one. The third part of the book definitely redeemed the previous part. It got better, the build-up was better, a lot more intense, some more twists, some more action. Honestly, my thoughts about this book are a bit all over the place. For me, it had very high highs and very low lows. I love the character Chu Chongba. She is incredible. You can really tell that Shelley Parker-Chan has put a lot of effort into writing this character. I loved her a lot. But the thing with that is that every other character sort of faded in comparison to her. Even other characters that had equally as much book time, screen time, I don't know. This book is actually told from multiple perspectives. It starts out with only being told from Chu Chong-ba's perspective, but as the story develops and we get to know more characters' perspectives are shared as well. But the issue for me was then that Chu Chong-ba was so good and her storyline was so good, so whenever we got another character's point of view and storyline, I simply didn't care. I just wanted to get back to our main character. And that's the thing that for me, pulled this down, that this main character was so incredibly good, but it greatly affected the other characters. The other characters in this one are definitely interesting as well. So it's not that the others are simply bad characters or lazy characters, not at all. Everyone is quite complex, everyone has their own themes and their own purpose to the story that I greatly appreciate, but it's just like, she was so good. So even if the others were good, it didn't compare. I felt like the story just slowed down whenever we read about any of the other characters or read from their point of views or what was going on. And a lot of the times I got quite confused as well when I read from those other perspectives. Another thing about this book is that it has some great queer representation. We have Chu Chong-ba, who is a girl, takes on the identity of a man and really starts to identify herself as this man. She does have this conflict of she has a body that she's trying to hide because otherwise she will be revealed to be someone else than who she's claiming to be. But as the story continues, her sense of self and her identity also develops, and it's just not a girl disguising herself as a boy, and it's not only a boy who happened to be born in a girl's body. Much deeper and more complex in that way, in a way I think is really realistic to how many might feel, and that I think Shelley Parker-Chan did amazingly in showcasing in this one. So the gender identity discussions and representations in this one are amazing because it shows that it's quite complex and it shows how it might affect certain relationships, but in the same time how it doesn't affect certain relationships, because the character, she's still herself. She's still Chu Chong-ba. She is the character she is. She is the character she has grown into. She's her. Her gender identity is very queer, non-conforming, basically I would say. Another character in this one is a eunuch, and there's also in that regard a lot of discussions about femininity, masculinity, what's what, and how people around that character act and react. I really appreciate for what this book did with the complexity of the characters' identities and also the complexity of these characters' relationships with other characters. And I think all of that is reflected in a really amazing way that I haven't really seen in books before. Major theme of this book is desire, to want and to desire. It started out with Chu Chong-ba having the desire to live, having the desire to avoid her faith, working so hard towards it, being so ambitious about it. And then we start seeing other sorts of desires. We start seeing physical desires, to desire someone, to want to be with someone, connect with them. We also see traits of ambitious desires, of wanting to grow, wanting to become better, wanting to earn power, climbing your way up amongst your peers, becoming the best. And then the desire for more questionable and morally complicated things. Desire is the main thing, and it is constantly emphasized throughout the book. You are constantly reminded about the fact that desire is a thing. I have even tabbed a lot of the things in this book where desire is mentioned. From the beginning, when she came to the monastery, she is told that anyone who remembers you coming to the monastery knows that you know what it is to want. Once again, backtracking to the desire to want to survive, she was more attached to live than any of them could have understood. A lot of the things I have tabbed in this book are when Chu Chong-ba is either showing her true self about being ambitious, about wanting to live, about wanting to become a great name that everyone knows. Such a cool character. I loved her to death. She is incredible. Backtracking to the gender identity discussion, the reason why I'm calling her she is because throughout the book, whenever the author writes about Chu Chong-ba, she still uses she, her. So it's not a they or a them or he or him, but you also understand throughout the book that it is a queer gender identity in the way that it's quite non-conforming. If we look back at the marketing, Yes, it's definitely like a Mulan retelling about a girl dressing up as a boy. The Song of Achilles, as I said, I think it's more about the fact that it's a queer story and that it takes from some Asian Chinese mythology the way that Song of Achilles takes from Greek mythology. Another comparison, which I think many can think of, but is not typically talked about for different reasons, is a comparison to the Poppy War. Because in the Poppy War we also have a girl who is a peasant. She comes from the slums, she rises up, she goes from being a girl that nobody cares about to being this major force to be reckoned with in the wars, in the events of her nation. And I would say that this one very much compares in that regard. I know that some people don't like that this one is compared to the Poppy War, but I think it's quite on the nose that it can be compared to that one, and I do think it should be acknowledged. I'm not saying that it's another version of the Poppy War or that it's better or worse or whatever. It is similar in those ways that it is inspired by true events and by history, and we have a main character who comes from nothing and become this great force in the main story of this nation. Those are quite on the nose and right there. Perhaps if you do enjoy the Poppy War, I think you should definitely give this one a look. What I would say differs between those two is definitely the pacing. The Poppy War is extremely fast paced. This one is definitely slower compared to the Poppy War. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, it's all about preference. It still has the action events if you're interested in those, and it still has the great character developments. To wrap this off, I will just share some of my thoughts about the ending. There were quite a lot of twists and turns in the third and final part of this book that I did enjoy, but that were not really that unexpected for me. I was not majorly horrified or shocked by how this book ended and some of the things that happened to lead to that end, but nevertheless I still appreciated them, just generally because I do like those sorts of endings in my books and stories. Those parts still gripped me, although, as I said, they were not that surprising and unexpected, for me at least. What I do hope for is that this book definitely gets a sequel, and very soon. So basically, what did I like about this one? I liked the main character, I liked the setting, I like how it draws from true historical events, and I liked the emphasis on desire, all sorts of desire, and also the queer representation and discussions of gender identity in this one. All of those are amazing. The things I did not enjoy as much with this book was the pacing in some ways, or more like the action scenes. They didn't really work out for me, and I think that that's just how it is sometimes. I did not really enjoy the action scenes, or I didn't really care about them, and as I said, I didn't really care about the perspectives that were not from our main character, Chu Chongba. I'm so happy I read this one. I do think it's an incredible book in many ways. I gave it a very strong 4-star. I think that's the perfect rating for me with this book because I appreciate it so much in so many ways. I am so excited about this series and about reading more from Shelley Parker-Chan. So there we have it. My very rambly and not so cohesive, I think, review of She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan. I think you can tell that my thoughts were all over the place with this one. Sometimes I was disappointed in the book, sometimes I was super excited about it, and I think you can tell that I'm not too sure what to say. And that was my first ever video dedicated to a review of a single book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if I should try and do more of these in the future, or if you're like, nah, we're good fam, we don't need that. Keep it to the wrap-ups. Thank you so much for watching, please take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what